So as you can see out here, it's 5:12 in the morning, and I'm out here to talk politics a little bit. I can't say enough how much I admire Matt Truman and his ability to get his podcasts out on a regular basis. Seems like I think about this politics a lot, and I like to actually write because if you know, I don't particularly speak very well. But on the other hand, it's 5 o'clock in the morning. I've been thinking about this all night, and I know if I try to write something down here, it's going to take me hours and hours because I like to do things and back things up with specific references as we go on there. And that's another thing that I like about Matt Truman's podcast is he somehow gets to get all his audio clips in order when he's able to do it right there. So I'm going to have to talk a little bit about things by memory with this. So what I want to talk about over here is actually part of the things that he's brought out in his money podcast, and that's one of the things that I have a hard time with is that the piece of property that they wanted to buy over there off of Brant Pike is a piece of property that has businesses that have been in business, some of them for as long as I've been here, which is more than 13 years. So to me, it looks, if I were to do one of those screaming headlines, it would be something like, the mayor wants to put longtime businesses out of business or drive them from Huber Heights. So, I mean, what are we talking about? We're talking about like Vax and Video. They've been there for as long as I've been here. The British store, there's a bar in that same shopping center, like there. And they haven't been there for as long as I've been here, but the Sit and Play Dog Park is a great asset to this community. And there's a furniture store in there now. So that whole strip center that they wanted to pay $2.8 million for is a business that's generating taxes for the city already and providing vital services with businesses that are making it themselves. So why would we want to put these guys out of business? And one of the things that I've been thinking about tonight while I've been lying in bed in here is that people have been told that it's ugly there, so a lot of people want to get rid of those businesses just because they've been told that it's ugly. And quite frankly, I don't particularly see that aspect of it. So I am not on the same page as a lot of people that are going, we need to put these businesses out of business because that shopping center is ugly. And so, that justifies going out there and wasting $2.8 million of our taxpayer money in order to improve how pretty that area might be. So, that's one of the things that I was thinking about as well there. Now, there is another section of that shopping center that needs to have stuff done to it, and instead of buying it out, I think that the city should be telling them that they need to bring it up into a place where they could rent it out. And specifically, that's the area where the Heat nightclub was. That particular property can't be rented because it doesn't satisfy the fire protection code right now. So I think that the city should be out there saying or putting rules in place that if a business isn't up to code, then the people need to either put it up to code, or they need to tear it down, or they need to start paying fines in order to get them in line. So if I were trying to make that area a little bit more useful to the city, I would be enforcing the fire code, and if the fire code doesn't allow it right now, I would make it so that those businesses had to come up to code even though they're empty. Because quite frankly, If that part of the building burned down, then the front part of the building would be in peril as well. So with that, so that's one of the things that I was thinking about when I was thinking about Matt's podcast tonight. But the other things that I was thinking about were some of the things that the mayor has been saying that really needs to be addressed in here. And one of the things that was on there was talking about the Centerpoint 70, and he parrots the praise that he's heard from other people saying, hey, it's bringing in a lot of income and it's a success now. Well, it's true that there are successful businesses over there, and the city had purchased that property, which turned it into what it is now. But if you go back and you look at it more in depth, you'll see that the history was that the city bought it a long time ago, and they purchased it from somebody that had in with the cities for about twice as much as it was worth at the time. So the city bought 300 acres for twice as much as it is, and after at least a decade of it sitting idle, they were able to turn it into something useful. Well, that's nice, but what happens if the city hadn't spent twice as much on what it was worth and they had half that money to do something else with? Or if they had bought 600 acres, how much better would Centerpoint 70 be if it were 600 acres instead of 300 acres? And what if it didn't sit idle for 10 years? What if you hadn't let that money that they had spent twice as much on there not be idle for 10 years, and instead was doing something that was generating income or income tax for the city, right? So even though it looks like it's pretty successful now, you can't be using a model where you're wasting half your money as something to justify what you want to do today. So that's one of the things that was kind of annoying about one of the points that the mayor was trying to make while justifying spending $2.8 million on trying to buy a piece of property that would drive out businesses from the city. The other thing that I have been thinking about this evening was the financial health of the city that was in the last work session, where they talk about us running out of money here by 2027 or 2024 if we actually do the capital improvements that are in the capital improvement plans. With that, the points that I was hoping that I would be able to write down was to go out there and look at the property tax. Okay, in that discussion they talk about decreasing property taxes. All right, so we're getting a decrease in property taxes, and then they also have a good discussion. This is one that I really should go in and copy out for you to listen to. But they say, oh, we're having an increase of TIF revenue because of all the development that we have in the north area. But instead of paying for the things that you would normally use TIF funds for and infrastructure, you had to have paid for things like making the profits better for the developer of carriage trails. So where we have increasing TIF revenue, you can't use those TIF dollars in order to pay for the infrastructure that you would normally use TIF dollars for, because you're paying for the development of the specific property, which allows the company to make more profit. And with that, the mayor talks about, hey, only 5% of the property tax that's collected is collected and goes to the city. But if you actually look at how much of the police budget and how much of the fire budget is due to the property tax, you will see that the amount, even though it's just 5% of what's collected in total property tax, it is 30% of all the money that's going into the police fund and almost half of all the money that's going into the fire fund. So yeah, it's interesting that he kind of poo-poos the idea that we're not getting very much money from property tax for the city, because it's only 5% of the total property tax, but it is a significant part of the budget of both of these funds. Well, I have spent, looks like 11 minutes on here, which is a lot shorter than Matt's 47 minutes, but obviously it would be a lot better if I were to go into the video files of the work session and showed you that discussion and highlighted that so that you could hear exactly what they were saying on the property tax versus TIF, increase in TIF revenues, and also his explanation of the Centerpoint 70, which is of course a little bit off mark. Anyway, this helped me a little bit. 5:23 in the morning. I guess I'll get up and get ready to go for work, and everybody have a good day.